When a narcissist faces a major collapse, when you leave, their career crumbles, or their mask is publicly ripped off, they do not go to a therapist, do they? They do not go to a wise friend who will hold them accountable. They retreat. They go back to the source. They run straight back to the person who installed the software of their disorder in the first place, the enabling parent. This is the most paradoxical move they make, because often this parent was their original abuser or the architect of their trauma. But they do not run there for love. They run there to be reset to factory settings. They return to the one environment on earth where the laws of reality do not apply and where their delusion is treated as absolute fact. They go home to the person who taught them that they are special, that the world is cruel, and that accountability is for other people. They are running back to the only mirror that is permanently fixed to show them a reflection they can stand. I'm Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to look behind the curtain at the first person a narcissist runs to after their major collapse. To understand why they run back, you have to understand what a collapse actually feels like to a narcissist. In the real world, the world where you and I live, actions have consequences. If you treat people poorly, they leave. If you lie, you get caught. For a narcissist, the real world is a hostile environment because it constantly threatens to expose their false self. When that exposure happens, maybe you finally stood up to them, or maybe you filed for divorce, they feel like they have been skinned alive. They are raw and terrified, not ashamed. They cannot soothe themselves, can they? They have no internal mechanism to say, I made a huge mistake, I'll fix it. So they need an external regulator. They need a place where the rules of the real world are suspended. They need to go back to the factory. This is a dynamic I know intimately, not just from my professional work, but from the front lines of my own life. I watched this play out in my own home for years, like a scripted play that never changed the ending. I watched my father, a man who demanded absolute control and respect, revert to a helpless child the moment his authority was challenged. I remember the pattern very vividly. Whenever there was a major fight at home, specifically when I began to find my voice and stood up against him, the atmosphere would shift. It usually happened on weekends or evenings, times when families are supposed to be connecting. But for us, it was when the war started always. I would give him a pushback. I would refuse to accept the gaslighting. I would hold a mirror up to his behavior, and you could see the injury in his eyes. It wasn't the injury of a father whose heart was broken. It was the injury of a king whose subject had refused to bow. In those moments, he would not reflect. He wouldn't go for a walk to cool off and think about how to repair the relationship. Absolutely not. He would grab his keys and run, and he would always run to the same place. He would run to his father. Now you may think, well, he's going to his father for wisdom or for comfort. But you have to understand who he was running to. My grandfather, like I have said before, was a malignant psychopathic narcissist. He was a horrible human being who had inflicted immense damage on everyone around him, including my father. But my father would run to him after every single fight, major or minor, as if he were a toddler, scraping his knee and running to mommy to kiss it better. He wanted to be coddled. He wanted his abuser to validate his victimhood. It is a profound and twisted irony. He was running from the conflict of a healthy boundary I or somebody else was trying to set at home, straight into the arms of the monster who created him. Why? Because the monster spoke his language. Simple. The monster wouldn't say, son, maybe you should listen to your son or somebody else. The monster would say, how dare he speak to you like that? You are the victim here. This dynamic reached a fever pitch one day when my father, in a desperate attempt to regain control, actually brought his father, my grandfather, into our home. He brought the big gun to silence me. It was an intimidation tactic. He wanted his father to witness the rebellion and put me back in my place. But by that point, I had seen too much truth to be afraid. I ended up having a fight with my grandfather as well. I stood my ground against the malignancy of the older generation, just as I had with the younger one. I refused to back down, and in the middle of that chaos, my father turned to his father, pointed at me, and said something that still chills me to the bone. He said, "See, this is what I tell you. When I tell you about the fight I have at home, this is it. You ask me why my mood is so down, this is why. This is exactly what I have to go through. This is what they put me through." In that moment, he was not a grown man, he was a tattletale. He was using my strength, my refusal to be abused, as evidence of his victimization. He was looking at his psychopathic father, begging for validation, saying, "Please agree with me that I am the good guy and they are the bad guys." He needed that co-signature on his delusion to survive the collapse of his ego. And my grandfather, true to his nature, delivered the verdict. He looked at my father and said, "Your son is not going to be faithful to you, I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you this once and for all, he's not yours." At the time, those words were meant to be a curse. They were meant to paint me as the traitor of some sort, the black sheep, the disloyal son. But looking back, I realized he was absolutely right. He was predicting the future, but not in the way he thought. He was right because I was not going to be faithful to the dysfunction. Hell no, I was not going to be faithful to the generational trauma. I was not going to be faithful to the silence that allowed them to operate. I was going to be faithful to the truth, and in their world, telling the truth is the ultimate act of betrayal. This anecdote illustrates exactly what the narcissist runs to the enabling parent. They are seeking a court of appeals where the judge is corrupt. When you hold a narcissist accountable, you are essentially finding them guilty in the court of reality. They cannot handle that verdict, so they flee to the jurisdiction of the parent, where the verdict is always not guilty by reason of superiority. This parent acts as a historical revisionist. When the narcissist runs to them crying about how mean you are, how crazy you are, or how you do not understand them, the parent is there to rewrite the script. They will say things like, "She never deserved you anyway," or "You always were too good for them," or "They are just jealous of you." They reinflate the narcissist's punctured ego. They pump them back up with the same toxic gas that they used to raise them. It creates a sanctuary of delusion. In that house, the narcissist doesn't have to be a husband, a wife, a father, or an employee. They can just be the golden child again. They can revert to a state of infancy where their needs are paramount and their flaws are invisible. It is a regression. You're dealing with an adult who has biologically aged, but psychologically, no. When they hit a wall, they become 6 years old again, hiding behind their parent's leg, pointing a finger at you. This relationship between the narcissist and the enabling parent is often described as a cult of two. They have a shared reality that no one else is allowed to enter. The parent validates the narcissist because the narcissist is an extension of the parent's ego. If the narcissist is wrong, then the parent who raised them is wrong, and neither of them can tolerate that shame. So they form a blockade. They reinforce each other's paranoia. They tell each other that the outside world is dangerous and their enemy, ungrateful, and that they are the only two people who truly get it. What is terrifying is that the narcissist will choose this toxicity over a healthy life with you. My father chose the validation of a psychopath over a relationship with his own family. He chose the comfort of being told he was right over the hard work of actually being right. The enabling parent is the vault where the narcissist hides their shame. When they run to them, they're effectively running away from themselves. They are running away from the reflection you showed them. You showed them a person who needs to grow, who needs to apologize and the person who needs to change. The parent shows them a person who is perfect, who is understood, and who is the eternal victim. Which reflection do you think a coward chooses? They choose the one that requires no work. No-brainer. This is why you cannot compete with the enabling parent, the narcissistic mother of the narcissistic man. You're bringing logic to a gunfight. You're bringing emotional maturity to a tantrum. You are trying to reason with a person who has retreated into a fortress built by their ancestors. When my grandfather told my father I would not be faithful, he was solidifying the us versus them mentality. He was giving my father permission to discard me, permission to hate me, and the permission to view me as the enemy. And my father took that permission and ran with it because it was easier than facing the fact that he was failing his family. So when you see them run back to mommy or daddy after a collapse, understand what is happening. They're not looking for advice, are they? They're looking for a reset. They're looking to be told that the lie is still true. They are getting a refill of their narcissism from the original source. So you have to let them go, please. You cannot drag them out of that sanctuary. No, if they want to live in a house of mirrors where they are always the fairest of them all, let them. You belong in the real world. You belong in the world where actions have consequences, where love includes accountability, and where loyalty is earned, not demanded. My grandfather was right. I was not faithful to them. I broke the cycle. And if you're watching this, it is because you are ready to break it too, and I am ready to help you. Join my Thrive After Narcissistic Abuse community, which is more than people getting together. It is a repository for all the tools you need to go from just surviving to thriving for real. Join right now. Link is in the description or in the pinned comment. I'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.